can you provide an update on photonic interconnects and your progress there? Because the last update we had was on the second of four steps, which I think was around last October.
Yeah, I mean, look, let me stand back for a second and let's talk about quantum networking and photonic interconnects. So, we are in the quantum networking space because we started down this path organically anyway. Before we bought Qubitekk and IDQ, we've been working on this photonic interconnect, and effectively entangled communication is the path forward for IonQ, and it's a path that we've been working on, on and off for quite some time. The important thing I think for the market to be aware of is that AFRL has purchased two systems from us that are quantum networked together. So obviously we're making once again good progress with customers. One of the things, Sean, that we are careful to do at IonQ is to represent accurately that we are in the business of quantum computing and the business of quantum networking. It does surprise me sometimes when you look at a startup company's investor presentation, and instead of having 40 slides like we do, where one of them is on our technical roadmap and 39 of them are on customers and applications and our ecosystem, all they have is 20 slides on their technical roadmap. And that's because it's all they're doing. All they're doing is a lab experiment. It's as if NVIDIA or Broadcom just said, we do stuff in the lab. We don't sell chips. You can't use them. We don't have a marketing department. We don't have a customer success department. We don't have a sales department. All we do is we try and design chips, and we hope someday that they'll work. And so we're pretty conservative about what we talk about on a go-forward basis, and we like to show what we're doing through our customers as much as possible, right? So there are other companies that make announcements about quantum random number generators. Well, we've been shipping our quantum random number generator through IDQ in the Samsung Galaxy Quantum 5, for quite some time. We haven't shown in the lab. We've actually shipped it through customers, right? Same with quantum networking. We've actually shown this to AFRL. It's one of our biggest contracts to date, and obviously it was awarded to us because we operate at room temperature. We have a miniaturization path, but also because we can do this, right? And so, look, in general, there's always engineering challenges when you're at the cutting edge of science. Right. But we've been worrying about the cutting edge of science because of, Professor Jung-Sung Kim and Professor Chris Monroe. We've been worrying about it for 30 years. And so I was talking to Chris Monroe earlier today, and he was making the point to me that most of the announcements that you hear from startup companies are things that he did in 2001. Sometimes 2010, but often 2001, right? And that includes Microsoft and right. Some of the neutral atom stuff. There's a lot of companies trying to make one gate work and talking about a roadmap in 2029. So what I like to say, Sean, is, I have, IonQ, we have more PowerPoint qubits than anybody. But unlike everybody else who only has PowerPoint qubits, we have real ones, and we sell real machines, and we sell real quantum networks, and you can see our machines in Seattle and College Park, and I think you visited us, right? So our stuff works. It's enterprise grade. We announced, we have a steady announcement trajectory of technical achievements. We tend to space them out when there's not earnings calls and things like that. But like with everything at IonQ, we're not concerned about our technical roadmap because we're generating revenue off of our machines. And so we're obviously hitting those milestones, even if we don't spend all of our time talking about them.
But you guys expect to apply photonic interconnects on the quantum computer maybe on the next year's product?
Oh, no. In the system that we're finishing up developing right now for AFRL, that will have the next phase of photonic interconnects on it.
For two machines that are, quantum entangled, which is effectively what a photonic interconnect is.
Right.
And we've commissioned the first of those machines. So we're doing this for, like I said, we're doing this for customers, not in the lab.
But that technology will be applied to your quantum computers as well.
Oh, yeah, well, Yeah, there's two systems,
Mhm.
and there's a little bit of confusion about this as well.
Mhm.
The if you look at a lot of the announcements last year,
Mm.
with AFRL, is we talk to them in the context sometimes of quantum networking.
Mm. Right.
However, it's quantum networking between quantum computers.
Mhm.
So, for instance, the AFRL system that we're working on right now is two quantum computers
Mm. Oh, okay.
that we're building, but we didn't announce that as selling two quantum computers.
Mhm.
We announced it as quantum networking.
Mhm.
And so, but the quantum networking required two quantum computers to be able to network them.
Mm.
So we're just finishing up the two systems. They're on the manufacturing floor here in Seattle.
Mhm.
That is for AFRL that will do the third phase of the
Oh.
the photonic interconnects.
Mm.
And so in that sense, sometimes people are confused. They sit down and say, well, oh, hey, you guys seem to be focusing a lot on quantum networking. How about the computing side?
Mm.
How is that going? Well, no, it's going quite well. We built, in this one example, we built two quantum computers for AFRL so they could network them. So it's a quantum computing and quantum networking. Even though we announced it last year as a quantum networking sale,
Right.
it was to network two quantum computers
Mm.
together.
Right. And talking about IonQ's core businesses, regarding the quantum hardware sales, IonQ initially planned to manufacture 5 Forte Enterprise systems. So one is deployed at Quantum Basel, and two were reportedly under construction as of 2024 Q2 earnings report. But
Yep.
there has been no recent updates on quantum hardware deployments. So any progress there?
Well, we just talked about the fact that there's two more quantum computers sitting on the assembly line
Mhm.
right now in Seattle, which is for the quantum networking side, right? So
That's
they're not
the.
they're not Forte systems, just to be clear.
Mhm.
They're systems, but they are quantum computing platforms for the Air Force to be able to do
Oh.
quantum networking. So, so the and one of the we have one of the systems about to come online,
Mhm.
and we'll probably keep it ourselves because we've run out of bandwidth to be able to meet customer demand.
Mhm.
For across all systems, we're largely just don't have any extra time for customers, so we need to be able to bring them online. Obviously, in the next couple of months, you'll hear more about more customers on Forte as well.
So the two machines that you mentioned are getting constructed on Q2 was those two for AFRL?
There's two for AFRL and
Yes.
also two which is Forte systems which are being manufactured. And
And
one of the Forte systems, my guess is that we will probably keep and put into our own data center simply because we just don't have enough available compute time for customers.
Remember, we sell systems, we sell partial systems, we sell cloud access. And so there are some countries that don't buy a whole system, they buy access or a portion of one.
so there's two Forte systems being manufactured in Seattle, but you guys haven't announced who's gonna buy it.
Yeah, we haven't announced those
Uh,
deals yet.
Okay. See, and for the quantum hardware applications, I saw from the IonQ's very early investor presentations back in 2020 that you
Yep.
guys suggested plans to integrate quantum computers to next generation fighter jets through certain aerospace and defense partners, which I think is AFRL. But is this still a valid future business model, or what do you guys think about it?
So I think there's a number of, since I'm the one who said that, I'll talk about it. There's clearly a market if you could get the quantum computers down to the point where you could put them onto a plane.
Right.
And but we have been busily working on shrinking those things over the years. It's clearly not there yet. The other side, which is the quantum networking side, is one of the things that we announced is we'd want a contract to do quantum networking to drones.
Right.
Now, that's clearly not putting a quantum computer onto a little drone, but it is to be able to do a quantum network to be able to control the drone. And so, and if you look also, we won a contract to do ruggedized hardware for the military so that it could be kind of taken, not just, there's academic, applications, then there's commercial, and then military requires the next level. You have to be able to drop the thing in the mud and still have it work, right? And so we've gotten several contracts now to do that for the quantum networking side. It's still work in progress to get it onto a quantum computer on a plane. But I do think that on the quantum networking side, not only can you get it likely onto drones, but onto satellites, and the form factor does fit, starts to fit into those kinds of areas. Quantum computing at the moment is still too big. It needs to be smaller to be able to get it, into space or onto a plane.
But to be clear, our systems are the size, as you know, of a large commercial refrigerator. It's not a football field.
Right.
We don't need our own nuclear power plant. And, if anyone has an opportunity to miniaturize, it's going to be us, because we run at a relatively warm temperature compared to everyone else who runs at, 0.1 Kelvin, right? So we have a real shot at it.
So for quantum hardware, the last time I visited Seattle, Thomas gave us a hint that maybe quantum computers can be loaded on aircraft carrier or on a big ship sometime.
That it definitely could be. So yeah, a big ship would not be a problem. Certainly not. I don't think you'd need an aircraft carrier, but a destroyer or something like that, it definitely could. I think there's also a huge market for that in subs as well, especially for quantum.
Anything that has its own nuclear power plant can take our quantum computer. That's a fair line, whether it's a sub, an aircraft carrier, frigate, whatever,
Right, exactly. Just remember too, with IDQ, we pick up, an office in Korea, and I believe roughly 20 employees. So, it's a good start.
So you guys have a plan to expand to Korea? Maybe a new branch?
Yeah, very much so. Korea at the moment has one of the most sophisticated quantum networks in the world, which was built by SK Telecom and IDQ. So, it has a strong head start compared to the rest of the world when it comes to quantum networking.
Talking about quantum networking, my other guess towards quantum networking business of IonQ was that the ultimate vision for this business might be IonQ aiming to secure large-scale contracts, such as national-level quantum networking projects with U.S. defense agencies.
Yeah, very much so, especially even more so in the quantum networking space. You're starting now to see kind of the first demonstrations of quantum secured networks using public, private key distribution. And so even all the way to satellites. So China just did a demonstration in satellites, and the EU is about to do a demonstration. They've got a pilot project. So one could see that in the future that, basically the internet is being secured by quantum networking technology. All of that would be, a massive business, because you basically need to protect the existing, telco infrastructure of the internet to make sure that it's all protected by, quantum networking.
And there has been discussions about relocating IonQ's HQ to Texas when you guys attended some kind of conference in Texas, and potentially establishing a large-scale quantum networking there. Is this a real possibility to you guys?
Well, we do like barbecue, but I'll let Nicolo.
Look,
we like Korean barbecue too.
That's true. Or equal opportunity barbecue enjoyers.
Right.
We're not moving our headquarters out of College Park. We are obviously in the process of hopefully establishing a quantum center using the bill that the chairman Giovanni Capriglione has put through the Capitol in Austin. So he just started that 2 weeks ago at South by Southwest. That's probably what you're referring to. It is a bill to fund, using some of Texas's $24 billion surplus for last year, a leadership position in quantum computing. We should obviously, be an anchor tenant of that vision, given that it was something we've been working on a long time, and B, I live here a lot of the time. And so I think it's safe to say that, we are growing as a company. We expect to have significant on-the-ground presence in one way or the other, in one function or the other, in quite a number of cities now, right? From Seoul to Austin to Maryland to Seattle to Geneva, Switzerland to Chattanooga, Tennessee. We're doing more. And I think it's safe to say also that, we expect to grow our footprint in partnership with state governments who want to lead at this, because they recognize that we can create jobs, we can create economic growth, and they recognize that I call quantum computing the largest shift in the compute space since it got started. Like since Shockley and his first transistor 80 years ago, we are moving away from bits to qubits. And the example I always like to give, Sean, about how significant this is from an energy perspective. If you look at your brain, the human brain, it runs on 5 milliamps. So it's very likely a quantum computer. Simulating the human brain with silicon takes a football field of GPUs, a small nuclear power plant, and a small river of water to cool it. And it's very expensive, right? And by the way, ChatGPT-4 still can't do everything you can do, right? And so, the benefits of quantum computing are not just that we can solve problems that cannot be solved in silicon, but it's that we'll be able to solve problems that can be solved in silicon for a fraction of the space and a fraction of the energy, which is going to matter for the environment, it's going to matter for cost, and it's going to imagine for states that are currently telling data center companies if they want another data center, it's not the real estate they're worried about, it's the energy and the cooling water.
And for Niccolo, how does the IonQ's new CEO, Niccolo, do you plan to lead IonQ, and what aspects do you intend to prioritize?
Yeah, no, that's a good question to maybe wrap up on, as they say. So look, we have an executive chairman, so Peter and I agree all the strategic priorities, and like in Korea, the chairman matters a lot, Sean. So,
Right.
so Peter's opinion matters a lot. But what we've agreed is that we're going to prioritize the GAAP revenue guidance that we have delivered, the earnings call last month or 5 weeks ago. So getting to 75 million of revenue at the low end, 85 at the middle, 95 at the top, that's a priority. Obviously making, progress on AQ64 in the lab so we can then start shipping machines is the second priority. And if I were to add another one, obviously, on the networking side, we want to continue to demonstrate our global leadership. So, we believe that we're the networking leader. We're going to show that, obviously, technically, as well as through continued customer engagements. And we intend to grow our networking business through every customer and every vector and every segment that we can, right? So, end of the day, a lot of this goes back to the talent and the team, Sean. And so Peter and I spent a lot of time on hiring because if you have the best talent, you can do all of these other priorities.
And this is the officially last question. So you guys are aware that Korean investors own 31% of overall IonQ stock. Are you guys worried about it, or is there any message you guys want to share with us?
I would say that the company has had a very long history with Korea. Obviously one of our co-founders is from there. Samsung led co-led our Series B, right? And so if you look over the years, just all the things we've done, now the latest one coming up with SK Telecom to be able to put together a partnership with them. So it's been I think if we were to go through, there's probably been 15 different things we've done, more so than I think almost any other country we have done anything with, right? And so, so it's I think we've had a good, strong partnership with not obviously, the investors, but also with the government and with many of the local companies. And we're really excited by the fact that we have our first, division there and kind of boots on the ground. And so we hope to continue to expand and invest in the country as we go forward. So,
Yeah, I would say, we appreciate the support, Sean, and everyone that you help us keep in touch with. We really appreciate that all the Korean shareholders work hard to understand the sector, because it's not that easy to understand what's going on in the quantum computing space or quantum networking. So we appreciate the deep commitment to research information, and we appreciate your help and obviously, communicating with us across time zones, at time. But I'd reiterate what Peter said. We've been in Korea from the start. We intend to be in Korea, perpetually with an ever bigger presence. And we think that the Korean shareholder base that we love and appreciate is obviously long-term thinkers. And this is a long-term game, even though we make progress every day. We're just getting started here on the exponential growth curve that is IonQ.
I mean, I talked to Peter 2 years ago that I wanted to build something what Warren Buffett built with his shareholders. So it's quite a big change in Korea because Korean people really like to do day trading. So to spread long-term investing in Korea, it's a big challenge, but it's going pretty well because, as I already told Peter, I wrote a book about quantum investing in Korea. It became a bestseller, and people understand what the long-term investing is. So we'll stay as a strong supporter of IonQ, and we do hope to see great results from you guys in the future as well.
Thank you so much, Sean. I agree with the Warren Buffett approach. He always said you only get so many bullets.
Right.
Each investment's like a bullet, and you only so many silver bullets. So we're grateful that we're one of your silver bullets.
Right. So
And we hope to be your best silver bullet over time.
it is the best bullet. So this concludes our interview today. Thank you for your time, Peter and Nicolo.